Good evening, everyone. It's now 6:30, and I call to order the regular meeting of the Victoria City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on our agenda this evening is announcements. Our next City Council meeting will be held Tuesday, November 12th at 6:45 p.m. Please note both the date or the change in the day and the time of that meeting. The City Council will also canvass our local election results that same evening, which is Tuesday, November 12th at 6:30 p.m. Additionally, the City Council will be holding a budget workshop that same evening, again, Tuesday, November 12th. The budget workshop will begin at 5 p.m., and the council will continue discussing our 2025 final budget and tax levy. The change of date for the workshop and the meetings is due to Veterans Day falling on a Monday this year. Our annual Truth in Taxation budget hearing has been scheduled for 6:30 p.m. on Monday, December 9th. During this meeting, we'll be taking formal public input on our 2025 proposed budget and levy. However, we welcome and encourage your comments now as we are busy preparing for the 2025 budget. We also invite you to email your comments directly to the council or the city manager, or to submit them through our comments portal on our website. In other announcements, we want to thank everyone who attended our annual Halloween in Victoria event, which was held this past Saturday in partnership with the Victoria Lions, the Victoria Business Association, and participating Victoria businesses. There are no other announcements this evening. I do have a proclamation at the desk, which I will read from the dais. A proclamation declaring October 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas more than 10 million adults experience domestic violence and over 1.5 million high school students are physically abused by dating partners annually in the United States. And whereas more than 23,000 calls are placed to domestic violence hotlines nationwide every day. And whereas calls to our local domestic abuse crisis line, Southern Valley Alliance, have more than doubled in the last 2 years. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is felt not only by individuals and families, but by communities and the nation as a whole. And whereas the City of Victoria joins with others across the state of Minnesota and nationwide in supporting domestic violence victims and survivors, the advocates and organizations who serve them, and holding offenders accountable in Victoria. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Victoria Council members do hereby proclaim October 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This resolution is adopted by the City of Victoria and approved by the Mayor on this day. The next order of business is to adopt the final agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt the final agenda?
Motion to adopt the final agenda?
Council, I understand that the staff would like us to consider item 610 at the same time we consider item 6.6, as they both relate to the Downtown West Phase 1 or First Edition. If there are no objections to that, I will entertain a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to our next item, which is open forum. This is the opportunity for anyone to discuss an item that is not on the agenda and not in application form that will be coming to the council at a future date. We have two individuals who have registered to speak in advance. Before I invite them to the podium, I just want to share a little bit more about our open forum. Council members may ask clarifying questions, but we don't engage in discussion during open forum. On that note, I will now invite Jesse with the Southern Valley Alliance, who registered in advance, to step up to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. Hi, Jesse.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Jessie McKinnon, and I serve as the volunteer manager at Southern Valley Alliance. Thanks for having me here tonight to talk about the work that Southern Valley Alliance is doing here in our community. For those of you who don't know about our organization, Southern Valley Alliance is the only comprehensive provider of domestic violence services for all of Carver and Scott counties. We were founded in the early 80s, and until last year, we were located in Belle Plaine. But in January of 2024, we opened our new Domestic Abuse Advocacy Center in downtown Shakopee, which is a much more centralized location between the counties and provides a lot better access to those that we serve. Since that move in January, we've seen an incredible increase in the number of clients that we're seeing every day. In this past year, Southern Valley Alliance served 1,118 victim survivors, which is a 27% increase over the number of people that we served the year prior. Also, calls to our 24/7 crisis line increased by 23% in the last year, which equates to a total of 2,251 calls. In this last year, we also commenced a new transitional housing program, which is the first of its kind in our community. SVA has 7 scattered site apartments kind of sprinkled around both of the counties where victims and their families who are fleeing domestic abuse can stay for up to 12 months. During this time, they receive intensive case management, which assists them in all aspects of stabilization and safety, including housing, education and childcare, financial education, employment and job search assistance, and more. We're seeing great success with these clients, and this program is truly life-changing for them. We need to continue to get the word out in our communities about the availability of our critical programs, and I'm here tonight to ask you to help with that task. Nationally, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and it's the perfect time to help spread the word about Southern Valley Alliance and the services we provide. I know October is almost over, but that doesn't mean that we have to stop the awareness. I invite you to connect with us via social media. We're on all of the main platforms to share and comment on our posts. We have yard signs available for purchase that we encourage residents to place outside their homes or their places of business. And if you're interested in giving back of your time, we have all sorts of volunteer opportunities as well that range from helping laminate posters to attending court hearings with clients. To learn more about SVA or how you can get involved, you can head to our social media, like I said, or you can visit our website, which is svamn.org. Happy to take any questions. Otherwise, thanks for having me.
Very good. Thank you, Jesse. Any questions from the council for Ms. McKenna? Thank you, Jesse. We also have Mr. Dave Porter, who registered in advance to speak. Mr. Porter, please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name's Dave Porter. I'm here with my wife, Jill. We built our house back in 1999 here in the Wintergreen division, and we love it. We made a great choice. We love Victoria. This one's going to be a little different one for you tonight. I don't think you've heard this one. You probably have seen the pictures that I've handed out. A couple of years ago, as I was leaving for work, about 7:38 in the morning, I saw a MediaCom truck parked over by the main power source that you're seeing there, the dark green box. That was back then, I don't think Xcel, I think it was Northern States Power or whatever. I didn't have no idea what he was doing. When I came home that evening, there was another gray power box on the other side of it and that meter that you're seeing. I literally could not believe my eyes when I saw it. What really stuck out to me was the meter that I saw right there, about 5 feet high. And I assumed that it was a MediaCom meter, but it was not. Travis, your gentleman that works in your division here that was working with the FiberNet people, I've been in touch with him. He's been really helping us out. But he shared with us that that is a electric meter so that you can get your readings to know what to charge the citizens here of Victoria for the street lights that are in the neighborhoods. Give me 1 second, please. Actually, that night, I had 2 neighbors come over to my house, one on each side of me. They're good friends of ours. And they came to my door, knocked on it, and said, "What the heck have you got in your front yard?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm very upset." And I was upset it's basically been years. It's been quite a while. I can't even tell you anymore how long it's been. It's probably been at least 3-4 years at least. All the channels, MediaCom, XL, this city, everybody here was nice, but everybody was passing the buck. I couldn't get anywhere, and I knew I wasn't gonna. I kind of do know about how this is gonna work with what I do for my living. So, but I went through the motions, and I saw what I could do. We finally got past the fact that it wasn't gonna get changed. We cannot hide that with any shrubbery, any landscaping. That meter is 5 feet high. It is, as you can see, it is literally in my front yard. We are a highway for basically for the Allegheny Division going all the way down to the park in Wintergreen, the one right in the middle. We have probably 50 people walking their dogs back and forth every evening. And when they do, I'd say at least half of them that haven't walked by my house before once in a while are literally looking at that and commenting on it going, I can just hear what they're saying. We're glad that that's not in my front yard. I just know it. And multi-neighbors keep bringing it up. And when they do, I get really upset again. Long story short, up until 3 weeks ago, that was on the back burner. I knew there wasn't anything we could do. What I found out is that we were 3 weeks ago, we'd be sitting in our living room, and it was getting colder in the evenings. We were getting some kind of pressure on our head, and anxious as hell, and my dog was acting absolutely weird. Anxious, barking more than he ever has, and needed to be outside. And me and my wife looked at each other like the first or second night, and we couldn't even sit in the living room. We had to go downstairs to a man cave that I built. It's excellent, but I'd rather be down there than she is, and she doesn't really want to go down there. She wants to go stay upstairs. So we felt better when she went down there pretty quickly. What we really knew what was going on was that my wife takes care of a special needs lady in Victoria 5 nights a week, stays over there, leaves at 8 o'clock at night, comes home about 8 o'clock in the morning. It's over by a new building over by the Lions Park. Relief in about an hour when she leaves our house. I even recorded it at about 6 o'clock one evening, about 2 weeks ago. It's on my phone. I went from one box to the other. During the day, the MediaCom box you can't even hear. The other box you can hear all the time. In the evening, though, when you go up there, which I have in my recording, they are humming like you wouldn't believe. Travis from the city set up the MediaCom gentleman to come out to my house last week. They were inside people, not the guys I needed to talk to again. We needed a supervisor that handles the power stuff outside in the utility trucks. And what he shared with me is that these things make more noise when it gets colder out, and also when there is a draw on power, which makes sense that this happens every night now from about 5:30 till she leaves at 8 o'clock. I take the dog for a walk right when she leaves, and I go upstairs and I get out of the living room, or I go downstairs to my basement. What I don't understand is I've been told that there's an easement there, and I get that. But they've literally, as you've seen from the pictures, there is a point to where they can put a utility box or a meter on somebody's house. What I've been being told is that they could literally put another power box or 2 there, and I shouldn't have to say anything. I could get by with those 3 boxes if they weren't making noise. It's the meter that's driving me nuts. It's now leaning over. I can't hide it with anything. It's absolutely frustrating. And when we sell our house, we're getting to be retirement age. I know I'd be seeing that right away if I was coming up to buy the house. It sticks out like a sore thumb, let alone the guilt that I would feel if a new family moved in there and they had kids and they had to listen to that the next day after they moved into that house. I mean, I don't know how to deal with that. It would not make me feel good knowing that these people would put up with we are, and I didn't tell them that. We have been in touch with a sound engineer that's worked with the state of Minnesota. He actually worked with sound barriers for around highways so that they didn't disturb the people. A test for him to come out and measure the low frequency noise, which is real. You just can't hear it, you can just feel it, is $1,500. An enclosure that he even mocked up that he had used before started at $3,000, would never work because of that meter there. And there's 3 different utility companies there, I think it was Phone, MediaCom, and XL. And even if I put an enclosure in there, if they can't get in there, they can destroy it. Basically what the MediaCom guy says. You can't lock it up, you can't make it so it can't be lifted up and taken away. The utility companies will go in there and they won't even knock on your door to say, hey, can you somehow get this piece of sound barrier off of these boxes? I know that I'm not asking you guys for answers tonight. It's just the chain of command. I was a military man. I know how it works. I've been working up from the bottom all the way up to the top, but there is no bottom, there is no top in this situation. I have to go to MediaCom, who I didn't get the right person for. I got to go to Excel again, who didn't listen to me the first time, and I deal with them in my job. I don't know where to go at this point. I just wanted to bring it to the attention of everybody and just feel what you would, just put yourself in my shoes and have that placed in your front yard, And I always said, if we went over to Deer Run at some of the beautiful houses over there on one of the holes that I played that was up for sale for $2 million, if he came home that night and saw all that equipment in his front yard, I think he'd be absolutely upset, and he might have the money to take somebody to court and get that somehow moved. The MediaCom guy even said, I would pay, if I were you, to have this stuff somehow moved into another part of your property. And I'm like, I can't afford that. I know how much that costs. I don't.
Why don't you finish up and then
And
Mrs. Porter?
and she knows I'm probably done.
Okay.
I'm done for
Okay.
now. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mrs. Porter, please.
Okay, so I've been investigating this because both of us can't be making up this pressure, and it's pressure on the eardrums, and it's a high squealing noise, and people that come to our house, my sister came over and she goes, what is that? So the infrasound, if you Google that, it's infrasound, effects on the human body. This is what we're experiencing. It's awful, we don't sleep. I have to go to her house, but the 2 nights that I'm home, the pressure is so bad, and it's like it affects you. So infrasound's effect on the human body. Please just look it up. We will pay the $1,500 to have come and get it tested, but from there, I don't know where we go. So, and I'm a nurse, so I know when there's a difference.
Right.
I mean, physically, I'm hard of hearing, but I guess hard of hearing people are more affected by infrasound from the low tone. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on back to the microphone.
I was going to say one last quick thing. That park that is a block away is literally straight down the line toward the front yards, and there's 3 houses away from the corner of that nice park that we have there. Right on the corner of that lot is a street light, and there is 2 or 3 pretty massive evergreen trees. That is where they should put a power box and a meter. It could have been easily hidden there, but they saved a couple of bucks by putting it in my front yard. And I just know that nobody else would want it in their front yard. It's not a NIMBY thing. It's just absolutely frustrating, and now it's a health thing, and it's driving us nuts. And and that's it. That's all I've got. I apologize if I went over my 5 minutes.
And Mr. Brierly is working with you.
Travis?
Okay, Travis
Yeah,
Brierly, yeah.
he's been great. Shout out to Travis. He's been doing what he can.
Right.
But he's going down the path already that I did this a few years ago. And I even got a map back in the day when this happened from MediaCom that showed me where they were placing these all over. Nobody had all the boxes together on their property. They were nice enough to give me that. I don't know why they did, but it just proved my point that nobody else has to put it in a couple. I think I saw 1 meter, but they put it in a spot where it was able to be hidden. I think, but I thought that was a MediaCom. That was a city deal / Excel for the streetlights.
Okay.
So.
I've got your address, your phone number, and your
Great.
name here.
Thank you.
Let us dig a little deeper
I
here.
think I
and
went
see if
over
we
the
can-
5 minutes. I apologize.
That's all right. Thank you for
Sorry.
coming in. Thank you for coming in. All right, I should have asked, council, do you have any other comments or questions for Mr. and Mrs. Porter before we let them go? All right, very good, thank you. All right, is there anyone else in the audience who wants to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda or not in application form? All right, seeing no one, we will move on then. Next is our consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine, administrative, and do not require deliberation or are housekeeping items that are required by law. Consent agenda items are approved with one vote unless someone requests an item to be considered separately. Ms. Hardy, does staff wish to pull any consent items for separate discussion and vote this evening?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Any members of the council that wish to pull something from the consent? Or anyone in the audience that would like to pull an item from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
We have a motion, can I get a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to our regular agenda, the first item on our agenda this evening, item 6.1, is a consideration of a request to authorize bidding for the construction of our new fire station at 8250 Cochia Lane and approve amendment number 1 to the construction manager agreement with Kraus Anderson Construction Company for construction services for the fire station. Fire Chief Dave Shoger is so anxious to come and tell us what he's got to say. So Chief Shoger, welcome. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing well. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're seeking your approval to move forward with the bidding process for the new fire station. Over the past 18 months, we have dedicated a combined total of more than 10,000 hours on this project, collaborating closely with St. H. Kraus Anderson and our city team. This project is more than just a new building. It represents a commitment to the future of our emergency services, ensuring that we continue to meet our growing city's needs. The new station will enhance our training capabilities, enable us to be more effective and prepared, and most importantly, underscores our focus on improving the health and safety of our firefighters, a commitment that feels especially pressing as one of our own is battling cancer right now. So with that, I'll invite C&H up here right now. This is Brooke, and KA, this is Mike up here.
Good evening, Brooke. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Brooke Jacobson. I'm one of the principals at C&H Architects. Do you want to introduce
Yeah,
yourself?
please.
Sure.
Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Mike Phillips with Kraus Anderson Construction.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, I'm going to get started. Mike will chime in when we get to a couple of different slides, and if you have any questions, please let me know. But I just thought before we get to kind of the fun and exciting videos of the station, we want to kind of to go through the process that we've been through. So at the very beginning, Chief Shoger mentioned how long, how many hours that the design team has been putting into this. But at the very beginning of that, one of the important things was to develop some guiding principles that could carry us through the project. So that was established. After that, we, as a design team, have collaborated throughout 36 meetings, spanning over 11 months. So some of the work on the in-house team started before that, but once C&H and Kraus Anderson came into the fold, we spent the last 11 months working on the design. Through all that, we reviewed 143 design sheets with numerous iterations, not only of site plans, many variations of floor plans, making sure that we're properly situating the building on the site the way it would work best for the department, making sure we have right adjacencies between different operational aspects of the building, and then working through several different renditions of building image to make sure that we are providing a building that fits in with the city and the department's needs. With all of that, we diligently worked to provide a station that would not only meet the current needs of the fire department in the city and the community now, but as for a long time into the future. We're hoping that this is a 40-plus year building that will span that test of time. And throughout this entire process, we stayed true to the guiding principles that were developed at the beginning throughout the process. And so any big decision that came to the design committee was always, if we had a hard time making a decision, we brought it up against that guiding principles and ran it through the list of does it meet this, does it meet that, and that helped inform us on how to make the best decision for the project. So some of those guiding principles, and Dave touched on some of these in his opening statements, but just so you can see them on the screen, but it was health and safety. That's always very important for the firefighters, that they're remaining healthy and safe. What they do is already a non-safe and non-healthy career choice, and so we do everything we can in the building to help alleviate that. Making sure we're being adaptable, so adaptability now and into the future, allowing flexibility within spaces, because who knows what the future will bring in a few years. Being sustainable, making sure that we're being efficient with our mechanical and electrical designs, also making sure that we have a lot of daylight into the building to make people comfortable and welcoming and inviting in that space. Design, it was a big component to be very intentional about the design of the project, make sure that the building has that quaint Victoria charm. Community outreach is also important, making sure that we're engaging with the community, we're providing space for the community, and meeting the needs of the community. History, which is not only important to the fire, not only a part of the fire department, but also the city of Victoria as well. Training, as the chief mentioned, this allows the firefighters to train on site, not have to go anywhere else by incorporating aspects into the building. And maximizing value, making sure that we're providing long-lasting materials, evaluating life cycle costs, making the best and appropriate decisions for that long-term value. So some of the features on the fire station, we always want to make sure that we're providing proper building zoning so that we're splitting up those hot and cold zones. That harkens back to the health and safety of our firefighters. Providing decontamination and support spaces so that when the firefighters come back from their calls, they can properly decontaminate the trucks, their equipment, and themselves, again, leading to that health and safety. Providing physical and mental health spaces. So after decontamination, they have spaces that they can go and de-stress on the mental health side of things, relax, feel like they're at home, and also, providing physical fitness opportunities, whether it's the indoor or outdoor fitness areas or the yoga room, wellness area, allowing those different aspects of fitness. Making sure that we're providing exterior and interior training opportunities, so that's throughout the building. We have a hose and training tower, so citizens can watch their fire department train on the when they do that on the exterior, and then also opportunities on the interior. So utilizing spaces, we have a second floor mezzanine that just exists over spaces that we need below, whether that's storage, decontamination, and provides that opportunity to train while in the building. Providing a large classroom that can also function as an EOC. And the building will house 2 departments for office space and allow room for future growth within those. And then the building image provides an exterior timeless aesthetic, which gives not only a nod back to the history of Victoria, but also the fire department, and allowing them to showcase, the original apparatus and other elements of the department's history. And part of that is just recognizing that department history. It's been around for a very long time, and they haven't really had the chance to showcase that before, so this building allows that opportunity.
Mr. Phillips is going to make sense of this spreadsheet.
Thank you. I was going to say I get the privilege to review numbers today. So a couple things before I get started. One, Brooke touched on the guiding principles, and I'd just like to echo the last one of maximizing value and being a good steward of resources. The team throughout the last 11 months, it's hard to believe that it's been that long, really has taken that to heart through this process. And I think when I walk you through and make sense of the spreadsheet, you guys will see that. The other thing that I would say is our estimates are point in time, which I'll get to in a minute. And so the costs are based on the project going out for bid in November, like we've talked about before, with construction start of summer of 2025, excuse me. So the line that I would like everybody to focus on, if you can read it, I know it's a little hard on the TV, but is the line in red, the construction cost subtotal. What I'd like to point out, I mentioned point in time. So for those that it's tough to read in the columns, one of the reasons why it's hard to read is just to show the trend or the history of this project. So all the way back in March at the concept estimate, we were just shy of a total project cost, construction cost rather, of $22 million. You fast forward through the May touch point at schematic design, the design development touch point in July, into our most recent CD estimate set in the middle of October, we're now at $22.5 million. So over that roughly 9 to 11 month time period, we've stayed within 2.5% of the original budget, which is a kudos again to the entire team on this project. With the ever-changing world that we live in and construction costs, whether it be commercial construction or for each of us in our homes, we know that things get more expensive day by day. What I would hit again just on here, overall construction cost, 22.5 million. That includes the estimate amount along with an escalation for inflation. Inflation is not to the day that the project is bid. Inflation is actually the midpoint of your construction project. So we're taking that inflation out basically until late fall, early winter of 2025. And then there's a standard construction contingency that's in that number as well. That's a 5% figure. That is an AIA standard for a project in this model, that you hold that dollar value for construction for unforeseen items throughout the course of construction. We can go to the next slide. This second part of the budget, and this actually gets you to the total project cost number down in green, soft costs. And so on this slide, there's a handful of items to each of those line items that you see under soft costs that individually don't have a value. There's between 3 to 5 items under each one of those. Soft costs include things such as design fees, permits and plan reviews, surveying, testing, inspections, the bidding and legal costs to go out on the street for bid. And the last one I'd hit is FF&E expenditures. The last one's on there to kind of put the tables and the chairs, if you will, into the building and set everything up ready for use. I'd point out again in that kind of tannish colored item, soft cost subtotal. We started the project again back in March at almost $4.5 million. You'll see that today we're just shy of $4 million, so a reduction in about $500,000 here. Again, that goes back to my first comment of just being good stewards as we work through this process and reducing costs. It's really hard to see this item, but the 2 below the tan or 1 above the green, if you will, soft costs on a project of this size typically range somewhere in the 20 to 25% range of your total project cost. And on this one, we are at 15, which is excellent. So I know it's a lot of information on that sheet, but it's important, I think, to show the path that we took over the last few months to get here. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to
Very good.
answer.
Thank you. Council, questions? Perfect. All right, thank you.
All right, so now to the little bit of show and tell. So we have a couple of videos to walk you through. So this is an exterior walkthrough. So as you come down from Cotia, you can see the west side of the facility. As we turn left and head up, this is going up into the public area and the front entrance. So in that corner that you're looking at right there is where the historic apparatus will be displayed with its own garage door so it can come out for various functions. There's the main entrance and the building and the admin area for building inspections and the fire department. And as we come around the west side of the building, that area with the kind of shorter shrubs on the right side is the outdoor fitness area. It's a little bit harder to see with the landscaping there. But now we're coming out, and this is the response side of the apparatus bays with the front tower. And you can see in that tallest tower is the relocated bell from the current station. And then as we wrap around the south side, this is the view you'll see. We're kind of turning into nighttime a little bit, so you can see what that that's as you went around along the county road, and then here's back on the west side again. And so there's that hose and training tower. And a view into the classroom, and that's that patio off the classroom. And then now we're going to walk into the building. So again, from that public parking area, coming into the main entrance. As we come in, you can see a little bit of all the lobby space. We've got the apparatus, historic. That's not the actual one. We only have so many models to work with, but that's to represent the original apparatus. We've got some display in the lobby area. And then this is all the public side of the facility. So we're heading down to the hallway that takes us into restrooms, some storage spaces, but also the main classroom and EOC. So that's what we're going to go into now. So there's that space behind the glass on the back wall takes you into a smaller meeting breakout room that can be used in conjunction with that classroom and EOC or separately. then now we're going to start in the lobby and work our way into the admin area where the offices for both building inspections and the fire department. So there's the admin assistants window. We have a meeting room on the left there. And then this is the open area for building inspections. So they have a lot of natural light coming in, and it's north facing, so they won't get those harsh direct sunlight as it moves through. We have a future workspace with a meeting room in there, an open collaboration area with a printer, copy work area. And then from here, we're going to head a little bit into the station office, and we're going to go into the fitness room. So this is where the firefighters can come and work out any time of day. And that view to the outdoor fitness area as well. And then the last one, starting in the firefighter workroom. And this is kind of their on-deck waiting space. We're going to head out into the apparatus space so you can see what that would look like. So here's the first grouping of bays where their first response vehicles would be. That wall you're seeing has a bunch of openings in it. Those are all for training purposes. They can ladder up to the mezzanine level there. Just going down a short hallway that gets us to the south grouping of bays. These bays are a little deeper, allows them to store more the non-first out vehicles. And again, another training wall on that side. So you can see a balcony, some openings, allows them different training scenarios. And then, this is the last one. So our wellness today room, this is the second floor wellness area. So where they can go, do stretching, do yoga, more on that mindfulness side. This is the hallway with the dorm suites off, and then we head into the main residence area of the day room. This is the dining area and kitchen we're gonna walk through. So we have windows down into the apparatus space so they can see what's going on down there. You can see the fire pole that comes out. It's directly across from the hallway that comes from the dorm rooms and drops directly down into a room below that lets into the apparatus bay. And then here's the day room side. So where they can come, relax after a stressful call, hang out as a group, a community. And a view back to the kitchen area. So thank you. If you have any questions, I think there's one more slide we can go through after that.
Okay, very good. This is beautiful. I know you guys had a big task because this was not just a fire department, but this was an extension of city offices and also some public community space, and it's just beautiful. I'm so thrilled with all the work that you guys have put into this, so thank you to that whole team who did hours and hours and hours of work and negotiation with each other about what this is going to look like, and it turned out beautifully, so thank you all for that. All right, council, other questions, comments?
I would just echo, it looks great, so.
Likewise, looks excellent, excellent.
All right.
Well, thank you. It's
Yeah.
been a very fun group to work with, and we've had a great time these last 11 months working on the project. So did you have one more slide you wanted to cover?
Just sample options.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. All right. Any last comments, council? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
Motion authorizing the solicitation of construction bids for the new fire station.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And may I have a second motion, please?
Motion approving amendment number 1 to the construction manager agreement with Kraus Anderson Construction Company.
Very good. We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. You're on to the next phase.
Thank you.
Our next three items, we're going to hear mid-reports from our citizens advisory boards. So we have those folks in the audience with us this evening. So first up is item 6.2, which is a mid-year report from our senior advisory committee. And presenting this evening is committee chair Dave Kleinfelter. Dave, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. It's good to be here. It's always nice to update you folks on activities of the Senior Advisory Committee. As I read through the list of things that we've worked on, 3 themes kind of stood out to me. One is information and communication. We have regular attendees from the Carver County Office of the Public Health folks, and there's a Office of Aging meeting once a year for all the people in the county. We have several committee members that attend that and pick up ideas from other senior citizen groups in the county. And a lot of that information then feeds into our senior resource packet, which has been one of the products of the committee over the past few years. We update that annually, in that process starting right now to update that. We get information from all these places. If you haven't looked, just thumbed through that resource or flipped through it on your computer, it's pretty amazing how many resources are out there in a variety of categories for senior citizens in our county and here in Victoria. So that's a big part of what we do every year is update that. We did one donuts in Victoria to tell people about it and share with it and get their feedback about it. So ongoing, it's nice to see all those activities or all those services that are available, and we keep updating that. So that was theme number 1. Number 2 is I label it facilities planning and development. 2 areas there. We've been pretty active in reviewing the, let me get the name right here, the Downtown West Phase 1 and 2 projects. We've had several meetings where we got information about that, looked at the plans and gave feedback and suggestions and ideas. The other one is a potential facility for senior citizens in Victoria. Most of the other communities in our county have a dedicated facility. It's time that we start thinking about that, I think, as Victoria grows and we get more people and more senior citizens that would use specialized kinds of facilities. So one of the things that we spent several meetings looking at was the rec center and ways that could be used, at least temporarily, for kind of a focus for senior citizens. Maybe repurpose some of that space, or as other plans are made about what to do with that facility, incorporate some senior citizen activities in that. Several of our members of the committee have visited other senior citizen facilities in the county, come back with ideas. So that's an ongoing discussion about how we may create a focal point for seniors with a physical facility like that. The third one was a project that we worked on a year ago that's kind of coming to fruition, and that was a set of walking trails in the community. So we did the feasibility study, we did the walkabilities and so forth. Now, my understanding is the staff is working on a project report about that could be used by Park and Rec to do things like plan for in their budgets for benches or lighting or signage or things like that, and also incorporate that into the looking at underutilized facilities in the Park and Rec area, how we might incorporate more trails or better use of trails in that. So that was the third kind of specific project. Questions, comments?
I
Quick
do.
update?
Thank you so much for that update. I do have a question for you.
Sure.
As you and your fellow committee members travel around and look at other senior centers and those kinds of things, what kind of jumps out at you as something that you'd love to see here in Victoria from a programming or a planning standpoint?
You know, there's a variety of things that come up. You know, one of our committee members goes to Eden Prairie every couple of weeks to get his toenails clipped. You know, it's interesting. You never think about something like that, but it's an important need that some people have, and he goes over to Eden Prairie to get that done. And a lot of it too is you see places where folks just gather for coffee. They have a place to talk and visit with other people in their age group. Trips to the Twins games and organization or activities like that. There's a wide gamut of activities that these different centers provide to seniors in their communities. So it's really hard to put a finger on what would be number one,
Okay.
for me anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Council, other questions or comments for Mr. Kleinfelder?
Just a comment, I think the awareness has been great and it's improving. So I've talked to other seniors and they feel that same way. So just wanted to.
You know, Andy, one of the hardest things is communication. I think especially with this group, because we're not all technologically up to date, so it's not as easy for us to do Facebook and things like that, you find. So we're always looking for ways to communicate better, whether it's just a sign, you know, in the ground somewhere, or information on the, we put a little, like, I don't know what you call it, a little place on the Park and Rec brochure, the senior citizen kind of activity. So there's always more that you can do. We're always looking for ideas on how to do that.
Very good. All right.
I would just, do you guys talk much about, you know, what kind of housing, more, what different types of housing? You know, we had another senior apartment, right, that had come before us earlier that was thinking about coming here. We've tried to build more apartments and townhomes, and we've really tried to push for more single level housing. I guess, is there a feeling that your group has had about like what our senior community is looking for more here?
You know, Chad, nothing in specific. It's just that we need more, you know, more opportunities, because there's a few places, you know, here in the community, and they're filled quickly. So there's a growing need. So that's the one theme I would say, is just more facilities dedicated for senior citizens.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's good to see you. Next up is the Planning Commission's mid-year report, and presenting that this evening is Chair Jarrett Kuhn. Chair Kuhn, welcome. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. First of all, I'd like to thank the staff for everything they do for us. They make our job so much easier, as you're very well aware of. But over the last 6 months, we've reviewed 3 sketch plats, 2 preliminary plans, a final plat, annexation, site and building material plans, variance applications, conditional use permits, comprehensive plan amendments, rezoning and plan unit developments, and we've held 10 public hearings were conducted, reviewed several ordinance changes, including those ordinance changes were shoreland ordinance related to tributary regulations, creation of 2 commercial zoning districts now in the city, implemented revised standards for conditional and interim use permits. We looked at new signage and fencing regulations, and have started the initial review of the cannabis regulations. In addition to the several comments, applications, some of those are like the City of Victoria Fire Station, West Creek Village, the Kuchenmeister sketch plats, as well as Hometown Bank commercial development, Southern Victoria commercial development, Huntersbrook Creekside, Victoria Ridge are all new things that are going or coming into the city. So we're excited of everything that's happening. We held our yearly orientation during our regular meeting back in April, and continue to look and see what's coming up in the future.
Thank you for that. And thank you to you and your fellow commission members who learn to speak the Planning Commission language. That is language that is not inherent in all of us. You have to learn what a PUD is, and a CUP, and a sketch plat, and a preliminary plat, and you guys have really embraced that. And as you talk about all the things that we've covered so far this year, it's incredible. And it's busy. And again, kudos to you for calling out our very, very capable and talented staff. They keep the wheels on the bus here for sure. So thank you. Council, questions, comments for Chair Kuhn? All right, keep up the good work. All right. And finally this evening, our mid-year report from the Park and Rec Committee. And Chair Larry Schultz is here to provide that update. Chair Schultz, welcome.
Hello, good evening. This has been a time of transition for us, and I'd like to congratulate Dana and her staff for finding us a really good director for our park system. Jenna Smith joined us in May. She's off to a great start, and she's been really good to work with. So we're pleased to have her. A couple areas of focus this last year have been, one is public engagement for park projects. We kind of talked about how do we do that better. And the staff has come up with some good ideas. The committee's had some good discussion about that. And so we're making a transition of that. And some of the things we're looking at doing is pop-up events or open houses at park playgrounds, et cetera, when we're going to make changes or it's time to update to get community input at that time. An example is in the transition, the first deer run effort was just replace the playground. What it will look like more in the future is engaging the people in the area to have a discussion of what they really need and spending the money that we have in an area that's going to be used by the people in that neighborhood park. So that's being done in our second iteration of Deer Run 1, and staff is working on that currently. Another area of focus was reviewing some of the plans that come our way, making, especially in the south and west areas this year. And we've had reviewed those and made recommendations to both the council and the planning commission as to whether we think a park's needed in that area or if we should accept the funding in lieu of parkland, and also where sidewalks and trails and those things could be. And we pass those on, and I know you review those. A third area is what we call moments of delight, and it's great to leverage volunteers in the community and organizations. And this past year, we've had some help from Eagle Scouts, and one of those is Gaga Ball Pit that's in Rhapsody Park. I had no idea what that was when they brought it initially, but it's something that a lot of people can use, especially younger people, and so that's nice to add that to our community. We also had Eagle Scout project of making some new community garden plots, and that's a service that I think often goes, we don't think much about it, but I know it's really appreciated by people in the community. I know there's people in my neighborhood that take advantage of that and rent a plot for the year, and it's a social event too for others that are there. So that's a great way to get community involved and people together to talk to each other. Another area under Moments of Delight, our park signs, and at the last meeting there was a discussion on that. Staff brought forward new branding strategy and how we can tie things together. I think that's really important. The committee reviewed that and had a good discussion, and the staff's moving forward with that and with consent from the committee. Also, trail connections is something else we talk about all the time, and I'm sure you hear it as well. I think the key things there are, as there's new projects, as we talked about these plats that are coming forward, it's easier to do the trails up front than try to figure out how to do them later. While it might cost a little bit more for the project initially, it costs a lot less than if you do it later. And it also provides a great benefit to our community of tying everything together on our trail system. I think there's some opportunities that we found that work better than others, and that's taking advantage of when there's construction projects like the Arboretum Transportation Plan is going to provide some real opportunities for us to tie some trails together with other partners where the whole burden doesn't fall entirely on the city, but we can connect things. Another item that came up this last year, we've had some discussion, and we've had discussion on this for a number of years, is if there's a way that we could tie the Lake Ridge community or area of our community through the Lake Minnetonka Trail. There was at one time perhaps an opportunity coming up where we could do that. Hopefully that presents itself in the future again, and we can tie that part of our community into the trail system. Finally, the Victoria Recreation Center is the area of focus. As we know, that we will inherit that at some point in time. Was it 2032 or 2030 or sometime in the future? But it's not too soon to start thinking about that. Community survey was conducted this last year. The committee had significant input into what areas we wanted to ask about, made those recommendations to the staff and council. My understanding is that survey has recently closed, and staff is in the process of analyzing those results, and the committee's looking forward to learning about those results and then passing on our recommendations to you. The other thing that's been a focus over the years is how do we take care of the things, resources that we already have. And to that end, some work's been done this year, especially painting at the rec center. I know some other things are in the works of taking care of the things that we have, doing the proper maintenance, etc. Would like to acknowledge other members of our committee that have been discussing these things over the past year. Mary Larson, Terry Cope, Amanda Cahill, Jacob Paul, and Cam Wright have been other committee members. Again, thanks to the staff, thanks to Jenna for all their assistance, and thanks to you, the council, for your ongoing support that makes Victoria, the city of lakes and parks, a wonderful place for all of us to live.
Very good. Thank you so much for the good work that you do. And Jenna, welcome. You're 6 months in now, so she's figured out how to get some lunch and go to the bathroom around here, so all is good there. Good. All right. Council, questions, comments for Chair Schultz?
I mean, I would just say, you know, so much of what we do tends to be, it's obviously important, but can be monotonous, and, you know, it's roads and developments, and you guys get the fun stuff. And so, like, you already do it, but keep thinking outside the box, right? I think that's, I mean, I think our community has said, right, like, we want different and we want fun. And so I think just, you know, continue to think outside the box and yeah, keep doing a good job.
And I think that opportunity to get input in different ways was a wonderful idea, and I'm looking forward to participating in some of those and getting the input of others in the community that help bring out some of those things that we either don't know about or don't think of at the time.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that we did was we ordered a mobile city hall that we could drag all over town so people could find us and find out what we were doing and be able to host those kinds of question and answer things. And that darn thing just did not show up this summer like we wanted it to. But it'll be here next year, and we can, you know, we can kick it off then. But yeah, I think you guys nailed it when you said, let's go find the people where they are and ask them the questions. And I know Kendra and her team in communications have been amazing at helping you with that as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no more discussion on that, this was just mid-year reports. We're not taking any action on that. It's just informational. So we'll move on to our next item, which is item 6.5, is consider executing an updated memorandum of understanding with Minnehaha Creek Watershed District for our Western Growth Area. My goodness, that was a mouthful. And so kicking us off this evening is City Engineer Kara Guerin, who is going to then introduce
Ms. Cermak.
from the Minnehaha Watershed District. So Ms. Guerin, why don't you kick us off?
Great. Jen and I had our order off a little bit. Mayor, members of the City Council, I am going to turn it over to the Watershed District. Kaylee, do you want to introduce who's here with you too?
Yes, thanks, Kara. My name's Kaylee Cermak, Planner Project Manager at the Watershed. I have James Whisker here, our District Administrator, Rachel, one of my fellow planners, and then one of our Board of Managers, Manager Olson. So One of my kind of priority focus areas as a planner project manager for the district is the 6 Mile Creek Halsted Bay Subwatershed. And I am thrilled to be here tonight to introduce council to our second memorandum of understanding that really takes everything that we've learned through our last decade of partnership and positions us to take it to the next level within the city's western growth area. Before we dive right into the Western Growth Area and the MOU, I'd like to provide just a little bit of background on the Watershed District and why we've put emphasis on the 6 Mile Creek Halsted Bay Subwatershed, and briefly profile a few projects from our last 10 years of partnership. As council knows, we are one of the largest urban watersheds, covering 178 square miles, and we like to break that into subwatersheds, shown by the arrows here. The landscape is quite different from the west to the east, meaning that how we approach work in the city of Victoria is going to be different than how we approach it in the city of Minneapolis. With land use dictating the quality and quantity of runoff, and since we don't control the land use decisions, we're always thinking about how our work can be catalysts for our partners' goals. And we do that by first taking a data-driven understanding of the watershed and layering in our partners' objectives that might relate to transportation and infrastructure, economic community development, parks and open space, and of course the people. We solidified this planning philosophy with the adoption of our balanced urban ecology policy in 2014. This stresses the importance of working in partnership and puts focus in areas of high need and high opportunity. Soon after, the 6 Mile Creek Halsted Bay was identified as a focal geography because of its high need. There's multiple impairments within this 27 square miles, all draining to Halsted Bay, the most impaired lake within the watershed. And there's a high opportunity based on the projected land use change with rapidly growing communities like Victoria. So to help ground ourselves and our partners with this complex 14 lake system, I think I skipped over here. We wanted to better understand the watershed science, the pollutant load coming off the landscape, the legacy phosphorus trapped inside the lake sediment, and evaluating carp populations and their potential impact on water quality and habitat. We then moved beyond the watershed science to understand the goals and needs of our various partners to gain context for their local priorities. Victoria was the first city to memorialize the partnership with us through our original MOU back in 2015. This provided us with an early blueprint for how we wanted to collaborate on our 10-year plans, permitting, and project opportunities. And while still remaining open to opportunities across the city, this MOU gave our partnership an initial geographic focus, putting emphasis further south to align with the city's growth patterns and to address the most upstream impairment, Wasserman Lake. And over the past decade, we've accomplished more than I could get through tonight in a reasonable presentation. So instead, I wanted to highlight just 3 projects that really embody the spirit of our first MOU. Here, the district partnered with Lennar Homes on the south side of Wasserman Lake. Initially, this presented as a significant permitting challenge for the developer pretty late in the process. Through our partnership, we were able to leverage $200,000 of Lennar's private funding to complete a 12-acre wetland restoration that went beyond basic regulatory requirements, showing that coordinating on developing and permitting will lead to better outcomes. We saw through the city's comprehensive plan your vision and desire for a waterfront park, and we identified an opportunity to turn that vision into reality, partnering again to help the city acquire the last remaining public land around Wasserman Lake and delivering the city's first lakeside park, which ultimately brought the lake into the broader community. Included in the park, we have multiple nature-based play areas, a fire ring for community gathering, and a boardwalk that provides the community that direct recreational access to the lake. Lastly, our partnership on the East Auburn Stormwater Pond retrofit showcased the benefits of integrated planning. Here, using $262,000 of Bowser funding, we designed and sized these ponds to capture and treat the runoff from a portion of downtown, including requirements of future development activity. By streamlining regulatory coordination and creating this regional treatment, this catalyzed redevelopment by giving developers greater certainty and reducing risk. And we're now just seeing the last of this treatment capacity utilized with the Roars development currently under construction. We've also used our partnership to leverage over $900,000 in grant funds for in-lake management, so both carp management and alum treatments. And we've started to see Wasserman Lake's water quality respond, moving towards state standards. So with the decade of partnership under our belts, we'd like to keep that momentum going, shifting our planning and implementation focus downstream where there are more water quality impairments to address. We're already coordinating with city staff on a hydrologic wetland restoration just downstream of Wasserman Lake, which looks to reduce nutrient loading to downstream impaired East Auburn. And we've also started to turn our planning and implementation attention to the city's western growth area, where there is again that high natural resource need, and with scheduled improvements coming to Highway 5 and the projected land use change, there's high opportunity. So there's planned, just to orient folks, we have the development edge here that perfectly defines the city's current boundary. And with planned annexation with Laketown Township, this will bring, of course, the ultimate city boundary much further west. We know along this current, back up here, we know along this current development edge, there's gonna be really key pieces for unlocking that development further west. But the district has a priority focus a little bit further west, so just over that area, within the Turbid-Lunston Management Unit. In this area, we're focused because of the two water quality impairments we have, with Turbid and South Lunston both impaired. In this area, we want to restore altered and drained wetlands to create a green corridor that improves water quality in these lakes and that can anchor future development. We also laid really important groundwork through our collaboration on the city's 2040 plan. And this was a really unique opportunity for our team. So kudos to council, staff, and Kara, who welcomed us into the planning process and gave us a seat right at the table to really put things like water and wetland regulation on par with community development planning. A big part of that was undertaking the green printing study together to demonstrate how natural resource goals don't need to be in opposition with development goals. What we saw with the Laketown 9th project example isn't an anomaly. Natural resource regulations are often thought of far into the process, causing nothing but problems for developers. Through this study, we brought that issue to the forefront, understanding where development constraints already exist due to that natural resource regulation, and forecasting likely development scenarios and patterns. And then we applied the associated requirements for stormwater. It showed that by planning ahead, we have the opportunity to regionalize stormwater for the city, reduce the number of lane miles, establish cohesive trail and green space networks, and reduce uncertainty and risk for property owners and interested developers, all while meeting density and growth requirements. This work resulted in the city's creation and adoption of the Victoria Chain of Lakes Greenway policy. This lays out a vision and set of recommendations for an interconnected system and further reinforces the city's identity as the city of lakes and parks. It's about enhancing the natural characteristics of Victoria's landscape in a way that promotes sustainable development. And to implement this work, this policy recognizes the need for a suite of strategies and the need to leverage each of our agencies' unique strengths, expertise, and land authorities to screen, evaluate, and implement projects. So taking a moment to reflect on the 2015 MOU, in just 3 short pages, we put our shared priorities and commitment in writing, and that led to so many wins and milestones for us. We had focus and made impacts on water resources in the community. We saw that while we were able to solve issues at the final hour, we would prefer to plan ahead and be proactive. And we started planning with you, giving us a clear shared vision. This second MOU looks to solidify successful strategies and really start to adapt to the needs of the Western growth area, all guided by the Greenway vision. The MOU has 3 kind of primary buckets of work. The first really being our commitment to continue to refine and begin implementing this Greenway vision. This will include addressing water quality and natural resource issues, while also strategically securing and preserving land to begin carving out and shaping the Greenway ahead of annexation and development. To do so, the district will be talking to property owners, exploring project feasibility, and securing land when project opportunities exist. And in parallel, the city will be advancing local infrastructure planning, roads, sewer, water, and we'll be at the table to make sure that that goes smoothly for you. And while we are working to implement this vision that was set in the 2040 plan, we know that both the city and the district are about to begin work on our next generation plans, and we want to ensure that we continue to strengthen and align our vision, priorities, and policies within our next set of 10-year plans. And along the way, we can evaluate how various land use policies might further support the implementation of this vision. And lastly, we want to continue to streamline the regulatory process for the city, its landowners, and interested developers. This photo does a great job at representing a typical development scenario. The city's boundary here is perfectly defined by this stubbed out road, and with the uncertainty and the challenge of how to route sewer, water, roads falling on the shoulders of the city and the next developer. And oftentimes, this is absent of what natural resource constraints might exist on this next parcel. So we want to continue to coordinate early with developers and the city and strive to think and plan more than one parcel at a time. With the city taking ownership and maintenance responsibilities over all its ponds, we also want to look to regionalize stormwater in an effort to minimize the city's long-term O&M costs. So in summary, what does this new chapter of partnership mean for Victoria? We are seeing many growing communities in our western geographies facing the challenge of retaining the natural characteristics and feel of their town while balancing the growth and density requirements. We have heard Victoria councils say that you don't want generic development, that you can be and should be picky with how the city grows. You've prioritized community-focused development that includes trails, parks, sidewalks, so that future neighborhoods feel like cohesive, connected spaces. The Greenway vision shows that unique and sustainable growth is achievable out in the Western Growth Area, and it provides a clear framework to harness the city's natural resources and continue to make Victoria an appealing place for future residents. The second MOU reinforces this bold vision and our commitment to see that through together. Our staff and board are excited to bring this vision to life with you and are grateful for our past and upcoming partnership efforts. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it back to Kara, but happy to take questions.
Very good. Thank you, Kaylee. Kara, do you have additional comments here?
No, we do have a sample motion in front of you, should the council be prepared to move forward with the second MOU, but it's exciting. I know you have a full agenda tonight, but it's exciting to have an opportunity to hear all the work that's been accomplished. With Wasserman, I remember being in this room answering a council member's question. James and I were about how long it would take the water quality of Wasserman to improve with all this investment, and James had to figure out how to answer it, and I believe the answer was along the lines of it took 100 years for it to get the way it was. It's going to take a long time for it to improve, and at the time I didn't think we'd be seeing improvements, and we are today already. So it's exciting to see that long-term work come together. So with that, certainly they're here to answer any questions, or of course staff is as well.
Well, I just want to say I'm excited to be moving forward with this second MOU with you, with the Watershed District. This is stuff that's important to both of us. The city of Victoria, we think we were one of the most beautiful places in the world, and we want to keep it that way. So we're excited to be moving forward with this together. Council, questions, comments? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the second memorandum of understanding with the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District.
Very good, thank you. I have a motion, and can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are moving on. Next, staff will present on both items 6.6 and 6.10. 6.6 is to consider reassignment of the developer for Downtown West Phase 1. And 6.10 is a resolution approving a revised final plat for Downtown West First Edition final plat. And the resolution also approves the request for reassignment. So that's a little bit complicated, but I think we've got our arms around it. So kicking us off this evening on that is Community and Economic Development Director Jen Brewington. Ms. Brewington, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I am very excited to be here tonight to give an update about Downtown West. So to provide some background on this project, the city of Victoria and Marco McLean took significant steps in 2022 to initiate the first phase of the development, which includes a 145-unit apartment building and essential green space. On September 12th of 2022, they finalized a purchase and sale agreement laying the foundation for this initial phase. Shortly after, on October 24th of 2022, the City Council approved the final plat, development agreement, tax increment financing agreement, which was moving the project forward. These agreements set the stage for the ongoing development efforts that we're going to be discussing tonight. So Marco McLean would like to assign the project to Olivine Apartment, LLC. Although involved parties remain the same, all prior agreements, including the purchase agreement, development agreement, tax increment financing agreement, and final plat, are being amended to reflect the assignment, incorporate the updated terms. So in this context, when we say assign, this refers to the transfer of rights, responsibilities, and obligations from one party to another. Specifically, Marco McLean would like to assign the project to Olivine Apartments, LLC, meaning that Olivine Apartments will now take over the responsibility party for the project. For transparency, again, I just want to throw out there that the individuals who have presented to you previously on this project do remain the same, despite the name change, and these key players are present today to address any questions that you may have, and so is staff. On the screen, I do have a motion for you. This is for a resolution approving a revised final plat for Downtown West First Edition, and the assignment of their purchase agreement, development agreement, and tax increment financing agreement to Olivine Apartments, LLC.
Very good.
You got it.
All right, thank you. Council, questions, comments? All right, seeing none. 2 years. I'm so delighted that we're reaching this phase. So we have no more discussion, and even though our agenda shows a recommended action for 6.6, our city attorney has advised that we can take one motion as part of 6.10 to cover the reassignment that was being asked in item 6.6. We don't need to approve the reassignment twice. Did I capture all of that properly?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, you appreciate that as part of this semi-involved project, the city has a big role in it. There's a real estate closing and there's a financing closing coming up, we anticipate. And to do any closings like that, there are a number of instruments that will have to be executed. You've identified the most important, the assignments to Olivine Apartments of the 3 agreements, the TIF agreement, the purchase agreement, and the development agreement. That's one of the things that needs to be done. The other is putting the plat into the name of Olivine Apartments. The plat isn't changing. The developer entity is just changing to Olivine Apartments. So that's what the resolution in front of you does. The other thing I would just add for clarity is that we've drafted it in a way that it would allow you, Mayor, and the manager to sign the other instruments that are always typical in a closing. None of the deal changes, of course, as a result of those instruments, but to get financing done and a real estate closing that involves reciprocal conveyances, some exchanges of land. To make that all happen, a lot of things need to be signed. So the resolution in front of you covers everything that staff has just reported to you, and I think that's the way to proceed here, is to approve that all in one motion under this one resolution.
Okay, very good. So with that, 6.6 is informational, so I will take a motion on 6.10. Council, can I get a motion?
Motion to adopt the resolution revising the final plat for Downtown West First Edition and approving the assignment of the purchase agreement, development agreement, and tax increment financing agreement contingent upon any revisions required by the city attorney.
Thank you. We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. You're on to the next phase. Thank you. Next up, our city engineer is going to present both items 6.7 and 6.8 together, but council will take separate action on each item. So Ms. Guerin is here to present items 6.7 and 6.8. Ms. Guerin, please.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Actually, we have help tonight from Darren Milkey from Carver County is going to present
Mr. Milkey.
these two items.
I thought you were just here for fun.
It's been a lot of fun conversations so far. So.
Very good. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. Please proceed.
All right. Well, thank you, Kara, for the intro. Again, for the public, I'm Darren Milkey. I'm the Deputy County Engineer for Carver County Public Works. Thanks for having me. It's great to be back here in front of you again. I'm here to talk about two projects, and I'll probably say with all the magnitude of other bigger highway infrastructure projects that are coming down the pipeline, I think these two are kind of flying under the radar to some extent. But with that said, I think they're going to be very transformative for the city of Victoria as well as Carver County. So the first one is a roundabout project at the intersection of Highway 11, 14, and Marsh Lake Road, just south of downtown Victoria. So it's going to be a new roundabout at that intersection. There's also going to be off-road trails included, so it's going to complete some gaps in your trail system. So in particular, along the west side of Highway 11, it'll complete that trail gap, as well as continuing east from the roundabout along the north side of Pioneer Trail to about County Road 111. In addition, with the project, there's going to be some stormwater improvements. So when the project is built, you'll see a stormwater treatment facility in the southwest corner of the intersection. So, project needs, I won't get into the details, but I guess for our operations analysis, we grade the operations on an A to F scale, just like you would in school. This intersection during the peak days does not work well. So you can see it's an F on there. And primarily that's due to the traffic growth. For the traffic or ADT or average daily traffic that's on the highways in that area, if you look at the 2021 numbers, those numbers are about a 50% increase from just 5 to 8 years ago. So it's with all the development and growth that's been happening in this part of Victoria, it's definitely starting to put a strain on this intersection in particular. I guess with that additional traffic, it's hard to get on the highway or hard to make turns, or people take gambles or risks that maybe they shouldn't be doing. We have the data to back it up. The crash statistics that we have is this is above average intersection for crash rates, severity rates of crashes as well. So thankfully we have not had a fatality at this intersection, but I know recently we've had an uptick in, I guess, serious crashes or run off the road crashes at that intersection in particular. Primarily it's right angle crashes, but there are some run off the road crashes at that intersection as well. This is a layout of the project. I know Kara has an actual PDF file that she can open up to and zoom in on it. But again, it shows the extent. The darker shaded black gray colors are the extent of the project pavement that's going to be done. The roundabout circle itself is actually going to be concrete. This is going to be the first one for us that we're doing that way. We're going to be doing another one in Chaska next year as well. So that's just our first try at using these. We feel it's going to be better for us long-term for maintenance purposes is why we're going that way.
I'll just want to point out here too that, and Darren mentioned it, but the trail is included along the west side, so it'll connect from the Laketown neighborhood to the Huntersbrook neighborhood. And then, you know, that trail, we already built part of it along the Huntersbrook neighborhood down to through the Marsh Hollow development, and eventually it will connect to the commercial development planned south of the current development limits. And then Darren did note too, it'll connect to the Chaska trail system along the north side of the road. So Darren's going to cover costs a little bit here, but I do want to just highlight what was said in the Park and Rec Committee update. Way more cost effective to construct these trail connections as part of the project. Significantly lower cost per foot compared to when we've priced these things out to do them separately. So good opportunity here to partner and close a gap.
Thank you, Kara.
Just the overall schedule. Our design is, I guess, nearly complete. We're waiting for some final sign-offs on our construction plans through MnDOT. We are also nearly complete with our land acquisition process. We're just finalizing the last settlement agreement and payment with one of the main property owners on the project. So we do plan to attempt to go out for bids even in November, mid-November, start advertising for bids and open bids in December. With the anticipation of starting construction in April, I guess maybe mid-April at this point, hoping for a nice spring to get going right off the bat. And with that said, I know I have July 1st on there, but that's what we're targeting, is about maybe a 8 to 10 week closure of the intersection itself. So, like I just mentioned, this is going to involve full closure. There's a fair amount of grade change. If you're familiar with the area, the north side of the intersection has a fairly steep grade. So there is some grade changes that we're going to have to make to accommodate the roundabout at this intersection. Detours, the next two slides will go over those. The first one in purple here, I guess the purple circle is the intersection of the project itself, but the purple line is the route using for, I guess, Marsh Lake Road and Pioneer Trail is going up 111, up to Highway 11, up to Highway 43 or Church Lake Boulevard, and then back down to the west end of Marsh Lake Road. And then the Highway 11 detour is also using Highway 43, following south down to Highway 10, and then back over to the 10 and 11 intersection. So right away, we had 6 parcels on this project. 3 are owned by one property owner on the west side of the project. 4 of the parcels required permanent easements holding a little over 2 acres of new permanent highway easement that's needed. Another 1.5 acres or about of temporary easement needs as well. Project costs, I won't go in the depth or in the weeds here. Basically a $3.6 million construction project at this point. That does include contingency, so with the hope that we'll have favorable bids on this project. Overall, the county's share of this project cost is about 75% of the cost, with the city being about 25%. Also show land acquisition costs about $375,000. You can see the split there. Carver County is picking up the full cost of right-of-way to the east side of the intersection because that's still in the township. The west half is where we're sharing the cost 50-50 with the city of Victoria. Professional services, those are just cost shared by our construction cost share. So with this project, we were successful in obtaining $2 million in highway safety improvement, or HSIP funding, for this project. We're sharing that funding with the city of Victoria. So the city of Victoria is going to be utilizing about $500,000 of that total, since your share is about 25% roughly. After that, Carver County is still going to put in about $2 million, and the city of Victoria has a little over $700,000. Again, that includes contingency for construction yet to happen too.
Any questions on this one before we move on to the other project? We're going to go through both of them and then take motions after.
Sounds great. Questions on this project? Nope, straightforward. We've seen it before.
Very, very good. Next project, related to your downtown west development. This is just north of there on Highway 11. So if you're familiar with the Highway 5 and 11 intersection, or by the Dairy Queen, I think most people know the intersection. This is just north of that, about a quarter mile, is the southern start of the project, and it goes all the way up to Highway 7. So this is a safety improvement project for us. So it's, for the most part, staying on the existing alignment. It's shoulder widening, flatter in-slopes, drainage improvements, and then a pavement resurfacing as part of it as well. There are I guess maybe two main curve correction areas that we are working on. One is just north of the Lowry Nature Center entrance. It's a slight curve correction there. The more major one is just north of the church. If you're familiar with that area, you go across the low area, and then it's like a 45-mile-an-hour curve. We're going to make that 55 with this project. There's a slight realignment by the church area as well, just to pull the road away from the church because it's so close. So, we do have a layout here. I guess one big thing to note that I think the public has really liked about what this project is going to include is a trail connection. It's going to be starting from, I guess, the 5 and 11 project that's going to be separate from this one, and continue along the east side of Highway 11 and go past the church, across that wetland area. Then there's an underpass that Three Rivers Park District already has. It'll connect to that trail system there, at least get you that far out. So it's about at least a mile-long trail connection that'll get into Lowry Nature Center. So project funding, I guess the big picture here is majority of the project is funded by Carver County. The city of Victoria has just under $100,000 cost share towards this project. That is primarily for some curb and gutter and storm sewer work that's included with the project. Carver County is fully funding the trail because that is a future regional trail for us.
I will just note with the trail, the maintenance of the trail, though, will be the city's responsibility, consistent with all of the other trails along county roads that we maintain.
Thank you for bringing that up. For the project schedule, our design will be complete this winter, anticipating around December, January timeframe. Plan to bid it shortly thereafter. Tree clearing will have to happen in the month of March or early April because of the northern long-eared bat restrictions that we do have, because that's an endangered species. Construction will start shortly thereafter, likely in April of this year. We are coordinating with the other project team that's working on the Highway 5 and 11 project that has reconstruction and 2 roundabouts planned. So we're working out the details of how the staging is going to occur, so we're not trapping people, so we can get people in and out where the people that do live on there, as well as the Lowry Nature Center obviously is a big attraction for the area as well. So.
Any questions on that one?
Council, questions? Appreciate the fact that you're not going to trap people. I mean, we love having people in Victoria, but they just have to leave Victoria.
So you have 2 different joint powers agreements that you're being asked to approve. The first slide here is for the first one in your packet, which was the second presentation.
Which was the second presentation. Okay.
Yes.
Wow, thanks for that. Okay. Council, can I take a motion on the Highway 5 and Highway 7 joint powers agreement?
Motion to approve joint powers agreement with Carver County for construction on County State Aid Highway 11 from Trunk Highway 5 to Trunk Highway 7.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And this is our second, which is the roundabout, the JPA for the roundabout on 1114 and Marsh Lake Road.
Motion. Oh, go ahead, Dark.
Motion to approve joint powers agreement with Carver County for construction of County State Aid Highways 1114 and Marsh Lake Road.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor, council members.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darren.
All right. So we got all that taken care of. Next is item 6.9, which is an update of our municipal separate storm sewer system, or MS4 permit. Ms. Guerin, please.
Everybody left.
I know. Nobody wants to hang around and listen about the sewer.
Nobody wanted to stay.
It's the most important thing we do.
Hear about this.
All right. Ms. Guerin, let's talk sewer.
Okay, so we are going to talk about the city's MS4 general stormwater permit, and this is our annual review. I do have about 20 slides. I'm going to try to keep it a little bit higher level. This is a similar presentation that was shared with the full staff. So there's kind of 2 goals out of tonight with this presentation. One is to provide an update. One is to signal to the public that we are reviewing this annually, and there is an opportunity to provide comment should anyone be interested in talking with the Public Works team about this permit more. But then also there's a training element associated with our work, so we want to make sure that the council is aware of some of the things to look for when you're out and about in the community. So this is the world of acronyms. There will be a test at the end to make sure that you remember all of them. We use these so often that it's like you were saying about the Planning Commission, so I'll do my best to not stay trapped in terminology that is unfamiliar to the council. But This whole program actually dates all the way back to before 1972, with a lot of historical environmental issues that plagued the United States that led to the passage of the Clean Water Act in 1972, which the goal of the Clean Water Act is to restore and maintain the chemical, physical, and biological integrity of the nation's waters, and that all waters are fishable and swimmable where possible. So fast forward from 1972, we are operating under a permit that is a requirement of the Clean Water Act. So in the state of Minnesota, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency issues a permit that we apply for coverage under. So we're regulated by the MPCA, but they are really regulating on behalf of the Clean Water Act and the EPA. The good part about that is all of the cities that are affected by these requirements get to apply for approval under a general permit. We don't have to each create our own permit program to meet these requirements, so it's supposed to be more efficient. This program, the permit period is 5 years. So the current permit we were operating under was issued in 2020 and expires in 2025. Typically, we'll be looking at another round of permit renewal, but what we've seen in the last really 4 rounds is they end up extending that timeline a little bit. So it probably won't be in 2025 when we have the new permit. I would guess it'll be 26 perhaps, depending on how long it takes the PCA to issue the new permit. But essentially, the permit has 6 different minimum control measures. Everything that we're going to cover here equates to requirements for the city in terms of how we operate our storm sewer system. So our storm sewer system that collects runoff and rainfall from the sky. And so I'm going to highlight each of these minimum control measures a little bit and just highlight a couple of different areas that we've been improving over the last permit cycle. So MCM 1 and 2 are really about, I'll go back here, they're about public education and outreach and public participation and involvement. So that's been an area of focus really the last couple of years as the city's communications activities have ramped up. If you've had an opportunity to encounter Kendra and the team at any of the pop-up events around the community, car show, different events where the team has the different jugs of water, where folks get to try to guess what the source of the water is, that's part of our ongoing effort to improve education and drinking water. But MCM 1 is about public education and outreach, so we are required to have educational materials that we share with the public about these things. We're required to host activities and different meetings to help the public learn more about it. So that's really education. And then MCM 2 is about public participation and involvement. So the city's website includes a link to the city's stormwater pollution prevention program. There's a note on there that the city is happy to receive comments about our stormwater pollution prevention program year-round. We are required to review our program annually, and we are in the middle of doing that right now. So if folks are interested in talking more about that, there is a phone number for the Public Works team that people can reach out to. Have a conversation. Another thing that we highlight is the Adopt a Drain program. So folks can adopt a catch basin near their home and commit to keeping it free of leaves and yard waste and those additional pollutants. So you can click on the link and go find your house and see if you have a catch basin by you that hasn't been adopted, and you sign a commitment to do some level of care for that at that structure on the surface. You don't have to go in the structure or do any of the public works functions associated with it. So MCM 3, this is one of the areas where we want to make sure that council members are aware of. So this is about illicit discharge detection and elimination. And so what we're talking about here is that if you see something that appears to be running down the road that does not look like stormwater runoff, that should be reported to the city. So examples of that, these are just some photos where we had a truck lose its hydraulic lines and started to lose oil all down the roadway. So that was reported to the city, and there's appropriate processes for making sure that is cleaned up. But we're talking about soil, dirt, sediment, paint, solvents, pesticides, herbicides, detergent, plaster, concrete compounds, hazardous chemicals. Those of you who are closer to my age recall that people used to use catch basins to dump paint, paint they were trying to get rid of. They would dump it into the catch basin. This whole MCM3 is really about going about eliminating that to help protect our downstream water bodies. So anything that you put in the storm sewer system ends up in local streams, lakes, and wetlands. And ultimately, they contaminate and harm the flora and fauna of the state, or in English, plants and animals of the state that are located within our water bodies. High pollutant levels degrade water quality significantly. So really, we're looking out for things like uncontained spills. You may have saw some news reports in the last few months about an unknown pollutant in the Mississippi River that folks were trying to get to the bottom of. That's really what we're talking about here. If you're starting to see anything that doesn't look like stormwater runoff running into our storm sewer system or in a wetland or a stormwater pond behind your house, just call. There's no harm in calling. We're happy to take the phone call and happy to figure out if it's appropriate or not appropriate. Typically, what we see more commonly is salt. So salt is considered a contaminant. So salt piles are required to be properly contained so that the salt doesn't run off into wetlands and stormwater ponds. But often we're dealing with construction runoff. So this is probably the number one thing that we're fighting in the city of Victoria is sediment from construction. So the Public Works team does conduct routine inspections in our developing areas and works to work with the builders and the developers to address those sediment runoff into basins. And then, of course, the last one on the upper right-hand side, which is quite common, is people putting their landscape waste and grass clippings right into wetlands, into the street, which then runs into a catch basin and discharges to the wetland. In this particular picture on the right, what is required is that folks should be essentially blowing these grass clippings up back into their lawn or picking them up. Cities' requirements under the MCM3 that we're talking about, there is a lot of need for documentation. So we are required to track any complaints that we receive, any of the inspections that the Public Works team undertakes. We really have to just document all of that. That is an area that we're continuing to work on improving, is added additional documentation. Eventually, the MPCA will audit the City of Victoria. They are auditing every community in the state under this program, and from folks who have been through the audit process so far, the advice is the area that people are having the biggest challenge with is documentation. So that you're documenting everything, that you have it organized in a manner that you can actually find it when the MPCA schedules your audit. But that's even documenting things like verbal warnings. So it's hard to get your brain to go, I need to document a verbal warning, but that's what is currently required. MCM4 relates specifically to construction site stormwater runoff. So that's just a little more targeted area where we have to make sure that erosion control plans are developed for any project of significant size in the community. Minnehaha Creek Watershed District and Carver County WMO assist with MCM4 because they also review development plans when they go through the process to make sure that they have adequate erosion control measures planned. And then MCM5 is post-construction stormwater management. So that's the reason why stormwater ponds and filtration basins are all over new developments when they come before the city. Those are required as part of this permit program with the same goals as what we described earlier. And then MCM6 is really about the city zone operations, and I see I have the word township property because this is a presentation I use across several communities, but city property needs to be inventoried, our ponds, our structural stormwater BMPs, our outfalls. We have to have inventories of all of those things, and then the Public Works Department has to inspect them either annually or once every 5 years, depending on the type of facility it is. And then certainly we need to maintain those facilities. So this is street sweeping really happens under this MCM6. Our goal with street sweeping is to collect any sort of sediment before it ends up in our ponds and our wetlands. And then we have to maintain the ponds and BMPs. Many of the catch basins in the city of Victoria, before they discharge to a pond or a filtration basin, they have a sump structure, so the structure is extra deep to collect some of that sediment and pollutants, large pollutants, before they discharge into the wetlands or the ponds. And so those need to be cleaned regularly. So the public works crew goes out with a truck, a truck with a big vacuum on it, and sucks that sediment out of the bottom of the catch basin. And then salt usage is another area where the Public Works Department is trained on proper salt usage to use it where we need it, not just dump it everywhere and contribute to adding more salt to our water bodies, which goes back to affecting the flora and the fauna. So with that, these are, again, the minimum control measures. Certainly, you don't have to ask them now, but if council members as individuals have any questions about the program, if you get complaints from the public, if you observe illicit discharge, all of these should be sent to Brady.
I'm sure he'll be delighted to.
There's a general Public Works number on the website that collects this information, and he is the city's official MS4 coordinator, but the City of Victoria does tackle this as a team with folks from engineering, a bunch of people in Public Works. Gina from the building department is instrumental in assisting with this program, and then of course Kendra and her team. So with that, thank you for indulging my 14.5-minute presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Council, any questions for Kara on this fascinating topic? All right, seeing none, there's no action to be taken this evening, so we will move on. Thank you so much, Kara, and thank you to the team who takes care of all these things for us. The last item on our agenda was 610, which we already took action on, so we don't need anything else, any more to do with that. So we will now move on to reports and emerging issues. Attorney Vos, you are first.
Mayor and Council, this meeting tonight makes me very much want to deliver a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm not going to do that. I have nothing to report. When I say that, though, I feel like I don't want you to lose sight that it's actually been quite busy in our little legal department here for the city. Almost everything I do, of course, though, comes through your highly competent, wonderful staff, and so that's the case tonight. Everything's come through them, and I have nothing special to report.
Very good. Thank you so much. Ms. Hardy, anything from staff?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, I believe our city clerk has a brief update for you all.
Ms. Edisfold, please.
Yes. Madam Mayor and council members, as you guys notice, we have some new art as part of our ongoing collaboration with Deb Zeller. Local artist. It's a fun theme, and as always, our art is open for the public to view during normal business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, and we welcome them to come and view it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Edisfold. Council, anything from the council this evening? All right, I'm just going to take this one moment and remind people to vote and to thank our very capable staff and our election judges who meticulously take care of our elections here in the city of Victoria. So don't forget to vote, and thank you to all of them. There are no more items to come before the body this evening, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion. Can I get a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned.